Hey, what's up, guys? So today I'm actually going to look at Ethereum Bitcoin chart, the Ethereum to Bitcoin pair, and Bitcoin dominance because we want to see what kind of picture all these charts are painting together, and we want to look for clues as to whether we want to start going in, start, you know, looking into Ethereum and seeing if we're going to see Ethereum really start outpacing Bitcoin and maybe like a alt run. We could see an alt run much similar to the first half of 2017. Now, a lot of people talk about the big run being in Ethereum from December 2017 to January 29th, 2018. So that run right here, I think a lot of people like to talk about it as being alt season because we saw the pair, perform very well as well. But that's not really the case, and we're going to go into that further after I say this disclaimer. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence, especially when investing in cryptocurrencies. They do carry a lot of risk, so do your due diligence. Don't take this as financial advice. It's simply us looking at data and me giving my own opinion on what I'm seeing in the market. All right, so research because past performance is not an indicator of future performance. All right, now there's a couple questions we have to tackle before we can really understand the way Ethereum moves. So the first question we want to ask ourselves is, does Ethereum always move up with Bitcoin? And the answer is, for the most part, yes, it does. This run right here from end of 2016 all the way up into really December 4th, we saw Ethereum and Bitcoin move together. We've seen it move down together after January 29th. We've seen it move up together kind of like in the month of April 2018. We saw a rally. And even from this bottom in December 2018, we saw it go up until June of this past year. And then we've seen it kind of go down with Bitcoin, along with Bitcoin. Okay. Now, so we know that for the most part, Ethereum does move with Bitcoin. Now, the second question we want to ask ourselves is, well, have we seen Bitcoin and Ethereum move in opposite directions? And that's where things get interesting, because we have one time, and that one time we saw Ethereum moving inversely with Bitcoin was actually in the month of December, so the latter half of December 2017 at the beginning of 2018. A lot of people call that alt season because that's when, Bitcoin had topped out at 20K around December 11th, and then it went on this massive decline up until January 29th, whereas Ethereum went on this huge run after Bitcoin topped out, and we just saw a lot of liquidity just keep kind of flowing into Ethereum. So it really went from 700 to 1400. It kind of doubled up, while Bitcoin went down almost 50%. I think it was a little more than 50%. From 20K to 8,000. So it was more than 50% move down for Bitcoin, while we saw 50% move up for Ethereum. And what did that do for the pairing? Well, we saw this huge move from 0.025 really all the way up to 0.12, so like a 5x move. A lot of people call that alt season because obviously we saw Bitcoin selling off, while a lot of that strength, a lot of that liquidity was going into Ethereum. But contrary to the belief, the real alt season happened a year prior to that, in really the first half of 2017, where we saw Ethereum go from 0.0079, so really 0.008 to 0.175. So let me calculate that real quick. So it was really a 21x move in Bitcoin. So if you had 1 Bitcoin worth of Ethereum, you would have really accumulated 21 Bitcoin in that span from the very bottom to the very top. Now, most people don't catch it exactly like that, but just kind of wanted to exaggerate that just to make the point that, you know, this was a huge move compared to this 5x move we saw after Bitcoin had topped out. And when people really kind of consider what people really consider alt season, it wasn't really alt season when you look at the pairing. The real alt season was in that first half of 2017. And, you know, so now we kind of understand that, well, Ethereum and Bitcoin have they've always moved up together, they've always moved down together for the most part. The only time they didn't was after Bitcoin had topped out at 20,000, and now we want to ask ourselves, while you know, Ethereum and Bitcoin have moved up together, has that always meant that the pairing, the Ethereum to Bitcoin ratio, has moved up as well? And that's where these yellow shaded regions come in, because these regions are where, you know, we saw Ethereum outpace Bitcoin's growth. So that first half of 2017, December, mid-December to end of January, and then April 2018. And the other times, like, you know, this past year, we saw, and, you know, even from the second half of 2017, we saw the pair actually do horrible in that second half of 2017. The pairing just went, you know, it was horrible, right? And kind of in that December period, we saw it consolidate, so it didn't really do much. So it really just stayed the same, while Ethereum rose and Bitcoin rose as well. And usually when it's gone down, we've seen Ethereum bleed out a lot more. And I think what we're seeing now is, you know, if you've watched the previous videos, we talked about how we think we're seeing a bottoming phase in Bitcoin. And now we're looking at kind of redistribution or accumulation or whatever you want to call it. But does that mean that maybe Ethereum's bottomed out as well? And, you know, right now it's very hard to tell. A couple things to point out are that right now, you know, Ethereum's in a no man's land. It's just kind of hovering between these 2 points of resistance, neither of which is very strong, and nor have we seen very strong bounces, except from this this $81 region where Ethereum bottomed out in February, or, you know, in December. And another thing to point out is, you know, while Ethereum's not showing strength, we're not really seeing any indications that Bitcoin dominance is going to be going down anytime soon. We are approaching this critical 71 resistance point, this 71% Bitcoin dominance, but, you know, at the same time, we're also, you know, moving in a channel that really started in January 2018, so a 2-year channel where Bitcoin dominance has been slowly rising. Now, I highlighted these 3 regions because these are the regions where the Ethereum pair did really well, and when you look at the Bitcoin dominance, you could see how sharply it fell off each time Ethereum really rose. So And a lot of alts did well along with Ethereum during this time. But, you know, is it possible because we've seen rejections at resistant points, kind of like this red resistant point. We saw it really go down. We saw, this black resistant point, it really go down, but, it's moved in this channel. Now it's approaching this critical support line, which is really quite close to where we saw our first kind of big sell-off or a big drop in Bitcoin dominance. So is it possible that we see a sharp sell-off again? It is, and what I really want to see is not just how we react here, because we could just blow through past it and continue on our way up as Bitcoin dominance slowly trends up. But as soon as we break out this channel, I think that's when you're going to really start seeing alts make a move. So that's something we're going to pay attention to. We're going to look at the Ethereum to Bitcoin pair, and we're going to look for it, one, to get over this 0.02495 level, because we've seen kind of sharp jumps from the top from once we reclaim that support resistant line. And also we want to see the dominance kind of break out of this channel to kind of show us that it's ready to go at least in a new direction temporarily. So, as of now, personally, I don't really want to touch Ethereum, don't want to touch too many alts. There are some couple swing trades I've made along the way. They're in my Twitter account. I'll leave it down below if you guys are interested. If not, I'm not going to promote it. But that's really all. I really wanted to talk about Ethereum today and kind of look at its past price movement. And I don't think it's ready yet, even though we may be seeing a bottoming in Bitcoin. It seems like Ethereum really has to claim this $150 region before we get bullish on it, and from the pairing it has to reclaim this 0.025 level. And we want to see the dominance kind of get either rejected here or just kind of fly up to this top channel and see how we react there. Okay, but for the most part we've seen a lot of rejections at resistance. So are we going to see it again here like we did at the red line, or like we did right here at this point? Maybe. We're just going to have to wait and see. But aside from that, that's all for today. I think this is going to be the last video of 2020, unless we see something drastic in Bitcoin. Then I might end up making a video. But until then, guys, signing off. You guys have a happy holidays, and we'll see you in 2020.